Hello everyone, welcome to our interview. As you can tell by the title, with Jack Collison. Jack, 121 appearances, 14 goals for the Hammers, but we're here to find out about your time. How are you doing anyway? How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Can't complain. Keeping busy. Obviously very different over here in the States. But no, it's been good fun so far and I'm really enjoying it.
Well, let's go back to the very start. You got released by Cambridge. You had quite a few offers, but you plumped it for West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult time for me actually because I'd been at Cambridge a few years and just ready to go on full time and actually closed the youth system down. So everything was a bit up in the air and a couple of options to go with some old coaches. But as soon as I knew West Ham were in the hunt and obviously the opportunity to work with Tony Carr and the history and the likes of players he had brought through, it was too good an opportunity to turn down. And thankfully, I ended up making the right choice and obviously had a real good time at West Ham.
What was it like under Tony Carr, being a young kid coming up and learning to apply their trade, if you like?
It was great. I mean, a big thing for me was the likes of Lampard and Joe Cole and Rio. These guys were my heroes. So to go and work with the man who had really developed them was incredible. And obviously the jump from a small club like Cambridge to a massive club like West Ham, it took me a little while to adjust. And to be honest with you, I was really scared of Tony in them first few months. He's quite a tough character, and obviously his demands were very high. But I really enjoyed working with him, and he was one of them. When he spoke, you really listened, and his little gems of advice have sort of stuck with me throughout my career. And it was really interesting. As time went on, he made me captain in the second year, and then obviously I ended up progressing through. But it was great. I met Tony about 6 months ago at an event, and it was really good just having a chat with him and seeing what he thought. And certainly those first 2 years under Tony were massive in my development. And I suppose the big thing he gave me was just a real belief that I could go on and could follow in the footsteps of some of my idols.
You got to travel to the FA Cup final before you made your first team debut for West Ham. Obviously, went off to Wales for the FA Cup final. And you got to go with Tompkins. What was that like?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, myself and James at the time were with the first team quite a lot training. Obviously, what a squad, a real young and hungry squad. And to see him on that cup run after winning promotion the year before was incredible. And to be a part of it on the day, to be able to travel to the team hotel. I mean, as you can imagine, we were super excited, and we got to the nice hotel and Mark Noble, typical Mark Noble. We left our room for 2 minutes to have a walk, come back and our room was completely trashed. It was it was kind of welcome to the first team, boys. Him and Chrissy Cohen absolutely turned our room over. And then that night, Tonks had to sing as well because it was his first away trip. But then to get to the stadium and be part of the build-up, and we actually went out on the pitch before the players warmed up and had a kick about, and then to actually be in the stadium and witness a final like that was just incredible. I mean, the ups and downs throughout the game, and I think if it wasn't for Steven Gerrard, he was probably the only player in the world who could produce a moment of magic like that at that time. I think West Ham would have had a cup under their belts. But I mean, for a young lad, it was a great experience and certainly made me hungry for more. And obviously, I'm very thankful to Alan Pardew to give me that exposure and that opportunity. And looking back now, it was a real big step in my development. And as I said, it made me hungry and want to push on and want to sort of get more.
Did that make you believe that Alan Pardew saw you as part of his future plans at West Ham? Although he wasn't there for much longer, did you believe that he was then going to have you as part of his setup going forward?
Yeah, I think little things like that, obviously training with the first team, it gives you a real belief that obviously they think a lot of you. And then to go on a trip like that, and I must say Pardew was excellent with the young lads, got us involved as much as he possibly could. Took time to speak to us and try to help us improve. And them things there are massive in terms of having a first team manager take the time to talk to you. And it just gives you that belief that what you're doing is right. And if you keep working hard, there will be opportunities. And I mean, I suppose it was a bit unfortunate that Pardew got sacked because I was doing quite well at the time. And obviously I had to wait my time then and try and impress the new manager when Alan Kirby should come in.
You had to wait a little while, but you got your first team debut against Arsenal. What do you remember about
that? Yeah, I shit myself, you could say. No, it's similar again. Myself and James Tompkins travelling a lot with the first team that year and being 19th and 20th man and not quite making the squad. And it was that morning for breakfast. Finished breakfast, went our way back up, and the two young lads get stuck in the lift with the manager. So really awkward. And he goes, "Oh, make sure you're ready. You're both on the bench today." So me and Tonks waited a little while. Curbishley got out, and then we were up on the floor above, I think. And as soon as he got out, we celebrated. It was brilliant. It was like we'd won the World Cup, just being named on the bench. And obviously going to a place like the Emirates and the team that Arsenal had at the time was exciting. And obviously being on the bench is one thing. And I knew Freddie had been struggling through the week. And obviously when I saw him looking like he was about to come off, and the gaffer giving me the call saying, "Right, get yourself on." And it was very quick, and I'll never forget his last words. He went, "Try and get close to Fabregas if you can." Little pat on the head, and I was on.
How do you think you got on?
Oh, I was terrible. No, as you can imagine, it was tough. I think in the second half, I ran 7.5K. It was some record that year, and probably touched the ball about 5 times. But in terms of getting experience and really recognising what it would actually take to get to that level and to feel comfortable at that level, it was a real eye-opener. And I was fortunate I had some really good people around me at the time, Anton Ferdinand at the time, to kind of try and talk me through the game and talk to me afterwards. But once again, them little tasters and them little snippets, they just make you hungry for more. And obviously coming off the pitch, I was proud that I'd made my debut and sort of achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve from the age of 5 or 6. But as soon as he got off the pitch, I'm like, ready. I need more of this. I need to start making an impact and try and work hard to become a regular.
Does Tony Carr speak to you? Do you know once you've made your first team debut, you're essentially away from Tony's setup, aren't you? You're now in the first team. But does he come and sort of congratulate you or give you your feedback, although it's not really his side or anything?
Yeah, I mean, at the time we were still training at Chadwell Heath. The youth team was still based there a lot of the time for their gym work and lunch, and had to report to Chadwell. So it was a very close-knit thing at the time. There wasn't that separation. First team were over here and the academies here. It was very close together, and I think that was vital in sort of inspiring the young lads. They could see their heroes. I mean, walking in my first day, I'm watching what Teddy Sheringham's eating. I'm seeing what Nigel Reo-Coker's like around the place. I'm seeing Mark Noble as a young lad having a real big impact and effect on the first team. So constantly in interaction with Tony Carr, and I guess it was one of them. He'd seen so many come in and do it before and make their debuts. I'm sure it was another proud moment for him, seeing another one of his young lads go on and make that step into first team football.
This man behind me, Mr. Liam Gallagher, he's got a little part to play in your story at West Ham, isn't he?
He has, yes. He has. Yeah, my first away trip. So I said Tonks had to sing at the first team, the FA Cup final, but I had actually travelled with a team earlier that season when we played West Brom away. And obviously your initiation is a song in front of the first team, but you have to stand on your chair at dinner. And I remember on the journey up there, I had Wonderwall on the entire time. Just going through, I was thinking, I can't forget the words. And then dinner comes, and I just sat in my chair sweating, and I was just waiting and waiting. I don't think I ate anything. And then next thing, you hear the glasses tapping. And I knew it was my time, so I had to step up. And Christian Daly, bless him, he tried his hardest to help me through it, give me a bit of a beat on the table and that. But it certainly was a poor rendition. And but it's mental. It was after that you feel like you're actually part of it. And I know it sounds really strange and probably very stupid, but for a young lad, now you're part of that group and you feel more at home.
Is that your favourite song, or did you bottle it and pick an easy one?
No, I tried to go for an easy one. It was either that or Angels, I think. And I didn't feel I had the vocal range for Angels. I just tried to get through it. But, I mean, over the years, we've seen some classics. I remember going to Toronto as one of the slightly older lads that pre-season, and there was 5 or 6 young lads travelling, and few of the senior pros, like said, Craig Bellamy and that, put up some money for the winner, and it ended up turning into an X Factor competition, which was incredible. Obviously, the senior pros loved it, and a couple of the young pros went back a bit better off than they were before the trip.
Who won?
I think it was Ashley Miller, young lad who'd been in the youth team. I don't think he ever made his debut for the first team, but had been in and around it quite a bit.
But he made a few quid singing.
Yeah, happy days, eh?
Appearances none, cash made, singing got a little bit. That'd be his Wikipedia will be a bit different to a lot of others. What was it like though under Jafan Cazorla, arguably your best football at West Ham? What was it like being under him?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, for me, just having one of your heroes come in. As a young lad, I used to go to Chelsea quite a lot with my dad. So I actually got to see him play quite a few times, and it was just dazzling to see some of the stuff he could do with the ball, and just to remember the excitement around the training ground before his first day, before he come in. Everyone was buzzing already. I've told this story quite a lot, but we got into a five-a-side and player short, and obviously the gaffer whips his coat off and steps up, and we're playing a game. It's like a two-touch game or something, and the ball's fired into him, and he manages to turn. I think it was James Collins, and he dinked Rob Green from about 25 yards, and it was just a beautiful goal, and everyone just stood there clapping, just in amazement at what he'd just done. And I think it hit him. He ended up apologising to us. But I mean, from that moment on, it was great, especially that first season. Some of the football we played, and obviously for me, being a regular in the team, playing alongside the likes of Scotty Parker, Valon Barami, obviously Nobes at the top of the diamond. We played some really good football, and it was probably the best football I ever played in a West Ham shirt. And unfortunately, it was that same season I picked up the big injury and was never really the same after that. But certainly Zola, he'd come in, he was a wonderful character. And once again, he was someone who took time after training to do extras with you. Quite often he was doing technical work with me and then spending half hour on free kicks with Nobes. And do you know what I mean? He was a real top person and a top manager. And I think a lot of the players were sad to see him go the following season because we felt we had the squad and we were working hard to try and turn it around.
Where did it go wrong for him? Was he just too nice?
A lot of people said that, but there's different ways to manage, I think. And he certainly had the respect of the players. The boys wanted to do well for him because we respected him and cared about him and liked him. And sometimes when a team's struggling, it's hard to put your finger on it. And you talk about having a bit of bite. Steve Clark certainly wasn't one to hold back. He would be in there sort of growling and getting into them. And we felt we had a really good mix. Just one reason or another, the odd injury, the odd bad result, and suddenly it can start to snowball. I think you look at some of the stuff this season, it's probably a similar situation. Good squad, just hard to put your finger on why it's not quite going right.
Do you think the board should have stuck with him for longer and backed him again?
Yeah, I think so. It would have been nice to see him build a bit of a legacy, see what the likes of Eddie Howe's done at Bournemouth and Sean Dyche at Burnley. There certainly was a feeling around the place that Zola could be the man to do that, especially the fact he liked the young boys and took an interest in the academy. He played a certain brand of football that the West Ham fans liked and enjoyed watching. So it was a bit of an opportunity missed, I think, to really back him and give him the chance to try and build something special.
The summer of 2009 was a good one for you. Young Ham of the Year award you achieved.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone that's come through the academy and then, like you said, worked under Tony Carr and you've seen people follow that path before, what did it mean to you to win that award?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, the history and the list of players who've won it, and even the ones who have gone on to win it after, it was a special moment, and it just kind of summed up that season as a whole. Enjoyable football, playing in and around the first team, doing well, and obviously nice to top it off with an individual award.
So despite the injury, everything was going well for you at this point in your footballing career at West Ham.
Yeah, you could say that. Enjoying life and obviously playing well, feeling good. And obviously injuries happen in football, but I think the disappointing thing for me, I probably got that big initial injury at Wigan at obviously 20, I think I was 20 years old, probably 30 games into my senior career. And after that, I was certainly facing a battle just to get on the pitch and never ever felt fully fit or like I could play to my maximum ever again.
When the injury initially happened, though, you must have assumed you'd fully recover, especially at that young age.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a strange injury. Obviously, no one around me. I blame Cole for getting sent off because normally I would have just flicked it on, but I tried to be clever and bring it down on my chest. But yeah, obviously you feel like you're invincible when you're that age and when you're playing. And I probably rushed getting back because I think I come back within sort of 6 to 8 weeks and was playing at, I think we played Stoke, and I returned before the end of that season, knowing that at some point there would be a larger operation ahead. And obviously that came the following season. And after that operation, I ended up missing, I think, 14 months of football, which was quite a big hit and obviously disappointing that at a young age, world at your feet, enjoying your football, that you have to sort of deal with that stuff. But it's part and parcel of the game, and it certainly made me stronger as a person. And certainly now in my coaching career, it's gave me another string to my bow and gives me that sort of outlook and way to look at things and try and help other players in similar situations.
I know you shrug it off, but at some point, did you ever, even during your career, perhaps not now, but at some point, have you ever regretted coming back too soon, as you just said?
Yeah, I think hindsight's obviously it's a dangerous thing, isn't it? I think, as I said at the time, you can imagine a young lad playing in the Premier League, playing under a great manager, enjoying his football. And as I said, you feel invincible in it. Anything that hits you, you just feel like you can get on with it and get over it. And for one reason or another, ended up rushing back and taking a bit of a shortcut to try and get back fit and get back playing and obviously help the team. And it just wasn't to be. I mean, even that following season where we're fighting relegation and we're struggling, it got to the point where I'd train on a Friday and play on a Saturday. The rest of the week I'd be in the gym or be on an ice machine. And for a 20, 21-year-old, it's not really right, I don't think, to sort of ask that of someone. And it got to the point where I had to go to the manager myself and just say, look, I'm not right. My knee's swollen the entire time. I'm training on a Friday. I feel like crap on a Saturday. And it was certainly a difficult situation, and then it ended up, to top it off, we ended up obviously getting relegated that season. So that certainly was a tough year all round.
What was the reception when you went to the manager and said, look, I can't play it any longer? Did that go down well? Because the way I see it, managers are quite short term, so they're maybe not going to be as concerned about the long term of Jack Collison as Jack Collison is, if that makes sense. They want you on the pitch now.
Yeah, I don't think maybe understood the severity of it and what situation was actually going on with the knee. Obviously, the manager, they want to know who's fit and who's available and who we can count on for the weekend. And you look at the situation at the time, we're scrapping for points every week, we're struggling, and obviously I played such a big part of the season before. I'm sure he wanted me fit and out on the pitch. As I said, it's easy to now to look back at obviously some of the longer term damage and some of the issues that come after it. But yeah, it certainly gives me an interesting outlook on things now. And certainly if I'm in that position, now as a sort of a coach and hopefully long term I'll be a manager, I'll certainly try and be aware of the pressures we put on these young lads coming through and obviously dealing with injuries.
And if things were tough already, your father tragically passed away. What was that like for you as a footballer? How much did that impact you?
I think football was my release. Obviously, as a young lad, you don't ever sort of think that you would lose someone close to you. And where it happened so suddenly, it wasn't as if he was ill or we were half expecting it. I mean, he fell off his motorbike on the way to watch us play Spurs. So, yeah, it was certainly a shock. And it's probably looking back now, I see there's such the effect it really had on me, because I mean, all of a sudden I'm kind of overlooking my family, trying to keep an eye on my brothers and my sisters, making sure they're okay, and ultimately still trying to go out there and play football on the weekend and be as normal as you can at work. And I probably just dusted over it and tried to rub myself down and get on with it. But certainly I found the games and the training was a nice release, just to be out there on a football pitch. You kind of can lose yourself and forget about everything that's going on at the time. It's then at the end of training or the end of the game where it really hits you. And I know I spoke about it often, but that night I played 3 days after in the Millwall game was something that will live with me for the rest of my life. I mean, the staff, the way they carried me through, the players, the way they helped me in the change room, but the fans that night in the stadium, I know it will get remembered for people coming on the pitch and the trouble beforehand, but the way the fans really come together and helped a young lad through probably the toughest time in his life was something I'll never forget. And it was just incredible to witness that support and that love. And it's interesting now when I hear people talk about the West Ham family and how it's such a special club. That's certainly something that springs to mind for me straight away, and something I'm very thankful for.
We also went down under Avram Grant. And your bittersweet moment for you, really, wasn't it? Coming back and you're getting relegated at the same time. But why did we go down that season? I know you didn't play a big part, but I often think sometimes, surely now you're looking at it from a completely different perspective, though you might even have a clearer idea as to why they went down, because you can see things away from the football pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that season was horrible to watch. I was sat there helpless watching it as a fan myself, and to see the boys go out there and struggle on weekends and not be able to make any difference. And it was amazing that my first game back after 14 months was the day Avram got sacked and the day we actually got relegated at Wigan, where I injured my knee previously. So it was kind of a bit of a surreal situation, but that was certainly a difficult period. I think Avram struggled with maybe understanding what the club's like and what the West Ham fans expect. I mean, expect hard-working teams, and obviously they enjoy hard-working people in and around it. And I don't think he understood the magnitude of the job, despite coming from obviously such big clubs that he'd managed before. And it was certainly difficult to watch. And just in terms of watching the boys really struggle, I mean, Scotty Parker tried his hardest to rally us with team talk throughout the season and some ridiculous performances. And for one reason or another, it just wasn't to be that year. But looking back, it was probably a good thing, because, I mean, it was an opportunity for the club to clear out a little bit of dead wood and freshen it up. And probably that season in the Championship was one of the most enjoyable seasons in terms of probably winning more games than we lost. Okay, the football wasn't outstanding at times, but it was effective. And I think the West Ham fans certainly enjoyed the day out of Wembley in the playoff final, and obviously getting promoted that way is probably the best way, although it's very risky.
Were you happy to see Avram Grant get sacked?
It's tough for me to say, because obviously I'm not out there on the training pitch with him every day. I wasn't involved in a lot of the team meetings. I mean, when you're injured, you're very isolated. If you spend your days with a physio, you're in the physio room. Obviously, you see the boys in the morning, and you get kind of a vibe and a feeling out of what's going on, but you're not a real part of the process. But I think it was the right decision. It was important that they moved on and acted quickly, and obviously bring someone in with a very clear objective to get promoted and to stabilise the team in the Premier League. Something that I think Big Sam obviously done very well.
You said about how, when Zola got dismissed, a lot of the players were still behind Zola and a bit gutted to see him leave. Was it the same feeling for Avram, or was there maybe a bit more people?
No, I think people were. I think people were expecting it. I think the writing was on the wall. Obviously, to get relegated is disappointing. But I also think there was a few players there who weren't very happy and probably needed a fresh start themselves. So I think that summer was an important one for West Ham. Obviously, as I said, clearing out some of the deadwood, some of the players who didn't want to be there, a change in manager. And I think a real touch of genius was probably bringing in Kevin Nolan, because you can't really underestimate the role that he played behind the scenes in terms of building a good atmosphere, a real good team spirit, bringing people together, and obviously having that experience of the Championship and what it takes to get teams promoted was massively important for us as a group.
What was it like, though, hearing the manager has just been sacked literally straight after the final whistle with that one gone?
It was mental. I mean, we were on the bus waiting for it. There was actually whispers that he might get sacked, and obviously the boys were really disappointed at being leading in the game and ultimately losing the game 3-2 at the end. There was real disappointment already, and then obviously we were waiting, and then find out the manager had been sacked, and it was actually Scotty Parker who went up and sort of grabbed him and said, "Come on, you're coming back with us, boss." Do you know what I mean? It was a real strange sort of feeling, because I don't think he was sure whether he was coming back with us or it was kind of a taxi waiting or what was going on. But I think, it was one of them. I think it was expected, obviously from the fans and from quite a lot of the players. We didn't really perform at the level that was needed that year, and obviously the results ultimately told, and we ended up getting relegated.
Big Sam came in, as you said, with Kev. What was it like playing under? Well, how close are they? How close were Kevin and Sam in terms of captain and manager? It was almost like an assistant manager role for Kevin.
Yeah, no, they were like a double act. They could certainly go at each other as well, though. I mean, Kev was great in terms of protecting the players as well. I think he felt if Big Sam was going too far or maybe the players needed a bit more, Kev was certainly the first to stand up for us and go toe-to-toe with Big Sam, which isn't an easy thing to do. Such a big character. He's got a pretty good hairdryer, to be honest, himself. So to see Kev and him going toe-to-toe was quite incredible. But as I said, in terms of creating that atmosphere and that bond, you feel like your captain's really got your back. It's quite a good feeling, and they've probably done it on purpose at times. I think they were so close off the pitch and very clear in the way that we wanted to play, very clear in what Big Sam expected of you. And I suppose the biggest thing for him, as a player, you knew where you stood. If you weren't doing it, you knew you wouldn't be playing the following week. And he would quite openly tell you, if you were playing well and sticking to the game plan and doing your job, you knew you'd be in the team. And to go out on the pitch knowing what your job is, in possession, out of possession, what the opposition would be like, I think now that was a big reason in terms of why he did get their success, and he's had so much success over the years, because his attention to detail, his work behind the scenes was quite incredible. It's just at times, obviously, the football wasn't the prettiest to watch.
Do you enjoy that as a footballer, having, because you, Zola, Abram, Sam, they're all different managers. Do you enjoy having a manager who's so articulate and into his data and his stats and his numbers and stuff? Is that enjoyable, or does it remove part of the thrill of being a footballer?
No, I think for me it was a real eye-opener. I hadn't really played under anyone like that before, and certainly now, as I'm trying to become a coach and as I said, longer term a manager, his attention to detail and in terms of getting information over to players is something that I'll keep with me and try and use in obviously my journey. And look, we had a very clear way of playing. I was probably the least tricky right winger you've ever seen in West Ham's history. But I could get up and down the pitch and could obviously do a job. But in terms of that season as a whole, we had a real tight-knit group of players. The staff were really close. Obviously, Wally Downs, the likes of him, big characters around the place. And to be winning more games than you're losing was obviously nice. And as I said, to get promoted, if you're going to do it anyway, to have a day out of Wembley in front of your fans and get an opportunity to lift the cup and enjoy that feeling with some people you'd grown really close to was really special.
What was it like being the guy that had a major hand in firing us to Wembley, though? The semi-finals, I mean, arguably one of your best individual performances throughout your career. Yeah,
it was great. I mean, whenever I speak to West Ham fans now, they quite often mention the 2 goals in the semis to sort of set us on our way. And obviously, in terms of goals and appearances, that was my best return for West Ham that season. I mean, the funny thing was, I don't know if you remember, in the second leg at home to Cardiff, I actually come off with a bad shoulder.
Yeah.
I had to, I popped my AC joint, and the lead up to the final was touch and go whether I was actually going to make it. And I had cortisone in my shoulder, my knee was playing up, was swollen. I had to have that aspirated before the final. And I really was like the walking wounded, but there was no way you weren't going to get me out on that pitch for that final. And actually made it through the entire game, which was a bit of a shock. Even though I nearly gave a goal away in the last couple of minutes and I started dribbling around the centre circle, cramping up. But no, it's obviously great to play a big part. But as I said, the opportunity to do it around some real good people in terms of staff and players was fantastic.
What was it like when Barst scored that goal, though? The noise, the emotion, what was that all like?
I can't explain the feeling. It's funny, I look at the game back now, and if Vaz weren't there, I think the ball was actually dropping to me. So I reckon I'd have missed it, but Vaz was unbelievable. Once we got him in after Christmas, that second part of the season, he was incredible in terms of his goals and his performances. And just remember the feeling as the ball hit the net. Most of the boys run off celebrating one way, they went to the left, Vaz had his shirt off and his abs out, and I just pulled my shorts up and run off the other way. I was just so excited. And just to see the colour and the fans and the sound, it was a feeling I'll certainly never forget. And it's really hard to articulate what it actually felt like as the ball hit the net, because from the way he hit it, it looked like it was going over in my from where I was. So I was about to have a go at him. But yeah, when it hit the net, it was a special feeling. And I think just the sheer relief in that final whistle was immense. Obviously, a lot of pressure on us to bounce back first time I try, and big money spent. Obviously, bringing in the likes of Kevin Nolan and that, and Big Sam. So there was a lot of pressure, and I think to finally get over the line and obviously win the game at Wembley in front of the fans was a special day.
It's gone well for you at this point. Now, while you alluded to earlier, you knew you'd never fully recover. You must have been getting a bit optimistic, at least, to have a decent run in the side and back in the Premier League.
Yeah. No, I was obviously we got promoted. Once again, towards the end of the season, I was struggling a lot with my knee. It was swelling up a lot after games and wasn't very mobile. I didn't feel very mobile in the games and things like that. But obviously, lots to play for. Big stuff on the line. It was a case of trying to get through to the summer, letting it settle down and being ready for pre-season. But I had a few issues over the summer. It didn't feel right. And it was just a case of trying to let it settle down. And when we come back pre-season, it just felt horrible. And we tried to strengthen and do things like that. Just tried to avoid the surgery, but in the end, it was one of them. I just had to have it cleared out. And the disappointing thing was losing that momentum of being a regular in the team, and obviously seeing the boys start the season. And as I said, when you're injured, you're so isolated and away from it, and then coming back and trying to fight my way back in, and having to go on load and then come back and fight my way. And it was certainly difficult. But yeah, it was one of them things. I knew it was probably coming towards the end for me at that point. I was really struggling and felt terrible. So yeah, it was kind of probably that season that I was starting to half prepare in my mind that maybe I need to start looking at what's the next step, what's the next phase. And it was probably at that point I started on my coaching badges.
But before you'd done that, before we got promoted, you got sent off. Jack, what was that all about? What was that about?
It was terrible, wasn't it? I mean, there was certainly there's a bit of needle in them games with Reading, weren't there, at the time? I mean, Jason Roberts was very vocal in the press quite often, and he used to wind people up. And I think the fact that they'd come from nowhere Christmas time and were winning games and games, there was obviously a lot of pressure on that game. And obviously Joey O'Brien had just been sent off, and they'd scored off the free kick, and Jimmy Kebe felt it was right to start showboating and stop the ball and pulled his socks up and saw red. It was like a ball going to the red, and I went in, and as I got there, I kind of slowed down and thought, no. If you watch it, I kind of pull out and give him a little bit of a soft push, and it was just, it wasn't great. But obviously, red card, the only one in my career. But they scored from the resulting free kick. We ended up losing 2-0, and then Big Sam had us in at 7 a.m. the next morning to give us a bit of a dressing down.
The whole team, or just you and Joey?
No, the whole squad.
The whole squad suffered because of you.
Yeah, He'd done that on a couple of occasions. So, yeah, it was a tough one to take and something I learned from. It's funny, I was looking through some pictures the other day, and there's a great picture. I think it's Kevin Nolan and Julian Faubert giving Kebe a bit of abuse while he's on the floor.
Yeah, they backed you up. To be fair, the team did come and back you up. I think they must have all knew what you were getting at there. You could have made the red card a bit more worthwhile, I think, perhaps.
Yeah, looking back, I think that was if you're going to go off with a red, you might as well make it a bit more stylish, eh?
I would say so. But when you did get released, who told you? I always wonder things like this. Who is it that tells you your contract's not being renewed at the West Ham anymore?
It was actually Big Sam. It was, a bit of a strange phone call, actually. I mean, I kind of expected it to come, I suppose. I decided to go out to Wigan on loan at the end of the season. I wasn't the sort of footballer who could just sit around and play a bit part. I felt whilst I was sort of half fit, I wanted to get out there and try and play games. So the opportunity to go to Wigan, who was still in the FA Cup and fighting for promotion, I felt was a good opportunity. And obviously West Ham had an option if they wanted to keep me for another 2 years or not. And obviously decided not to take it up. And I was driving back from Wigan, a bit pissed off because we'd lost in the playoff semis, got knocked out in the semis at the semi-final. And once again, my knee was hanging off, and I was driving home, and I got a call from Big Sam. He just said, "Look, it's not to be. We're not going to be renewing you, extending your contract. Thanks for your efforts. Sort of best of luck, sort of thing."
What do you do then, though? Like, you've just effectively lost your job. Is it a case of going to your agent and get a new club ASAP, or?
Yeah, that's kind of the route you take. Obviously, getting onto your agent, trying to see if anyone's interested. But I think at the time it's quite well documented. I was struggling with my knee, so there wasn't, you could say, too many takers. I went on loan at a couple of places. Not on loan, I went on trial at a couple of places. I went down to QPR, struggled, I couldn't get moving. Went and had 3 months at Ipswich under Mick McCarthy, just trying to get fit and try and get back playing. But it just wasn't to be, and I just felt if I take 6 months out and kind of give my knee a chance to settle and reassess and sort of see where I'm at, I might be able to get back in the following year. So I took the time out. I think I went to see every specialist in the world who I felt could help. Went out to Milan, went here, there and everywhere, just trying to get an edge, and was obviously in the gym every day with the goal of coming back to try and play the following season. I mean, Peterborough gave me the opportunity to go back and play, and obviously I jumped at the chance. I felt I was ready to go back in, and got there, and I could sort of tell within 3 or 4 games I wasn't at the level and I wasn't doing myself justice. And playing in League One's obviously pretty tough anyway, but when you're playing in League One and you've got players running rings around you, and in your head you're trying to do one thing and your body just can't do it, I kind of knew it was time. I think the telling point was when we went to Coventry away, 2-0 up. I come on at half time, we lose the game 3-2.
It's not a good look.
It was certainly a low point, and I knew after that game I was kind of done, and I'm very thankful to Peterborough. One day I'm in there as a first team player, trying to obviously make it affect the team, and the next day I was there in front of the youth team, and they gave me an opportunity to go and coach the under-18s. So in terms of that transition from player to coach, it happened overnight, and it was a real, I suppose, good touch of class from Peterborough to sort of stick by me despite them taking a bit of a risk on me, and give me a chance to straight away go and help the young'uns and obviously give back something to the club that had given me that chance.
Well, you came back to West Ham as well, under-16s manager. How does that one come about? Who rings you on this occasion?
Yeah, it's Mr. West Ham himself, Mark Noble.
So what, he employs under-16s manager, does he?
No, obviously I kept in touch with a couple of the boys, and Nobes is someone who I still keep in touch with. and he rang me and said, look, there might be an opportunity. He knew I was coaching at Peterborough at the time. He said, would you be interested? And obviously for me, the opportunity to go back to a club I'd spent so long as a player, obviously the chance to go and work with real elite players was unbelievable. And I went and met with Terry Wesley, and very thankful for Terry Wesley. He gave me that opportunity to obviously come back home and work with some top players. And it was great coming back. It pushed me once again even more. Got the chance to be around that real elite environment. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time back there as a coach.
Were you predominantly under 16 manager, or were you sort of in and around the other youth teams as well at the time?
Yeah, so I was with the 16s for the first year. The second year is up with the under 18s, which was a great experience once again. As I said, just the opportunity to work with some real good players and to be in that environment, and for me to try and pass on some of my experiences that I had as a young player was great. And I must say I certainly enjoyed my time back there. It's something that was good and really helped me on my coaching journey.
Earlier, you said about how, as a youngster, it was important for you to be around the first team, and the fact that you were there training in the first team or across on the other pitch. Do you think it's now difficult or less advantage now that we've got Rush Green and Chadwell Heath? Is that a negative in your opinion as a footballer?
Yeah, I think so, where it was so separate. It's hard for these boys to look up to something and aspire. And I mean, probably one of the biggest and best things that West Ham have done this season is move the under-23s from Chadwell Heath over to Rush Green. So that for me is a real move in the right direction. These kids, the likes of Jeremy and Ngakia, the likes of Ben Johnson, the likes of Nathan Holland, who are sort of on that cusp, they need to be in and around that environment. And I think if you look at Grady Diangana, one of the first team players gets injured in a session. Grady gets called over with Pellegrini, does well, comes in and makes an impact and ends up playing quite a few games that year. So I think it's important for these young boys to be on the same site, to have something to aspire to, and obviously for them to see firsthand the level they need to get to go over and not just be a number but try and make an impact. So I think they've done well. Ricky Martin's obviously moved the 23s over there this year, and that's a real positive and a real bonus.
Last year you left though. You left West Ham again. I have to say it's a bit of a surprise actually. I was surprised when it was announced that you'd left. What's made you do that?
Yeah, lots of stuff. I mean, for me, the opportunity to, I suppose, try something completely different. I've been at West Ham 10, 11 years as a player and as a coach. I wouldn't say I got stale, but I'd say the opportunity for something completely new, a complete new environment, and a life experience alongside a job opportunity, it kind of went hand in hand. And obviously went out to Atlanta and got a feel for the place and to see what they were trying to build at the time, and to possibly be part of a real exciting new project was too good of an opportunity to turn down. So I'm sort of 6 months into the role now and really enjoying it, and still trying to get my head around some of the American rules and things like that and how the league system works. But it's great, and for me, once again, it's really pushed me. And I'd like to think, despite coming over here, that door at West Ham will always sort of be open, and further down the line, whether it's in 5, 10, 15, 20, whenever the time comes, that there may be an opportunity to go back, possibly at a more senior role.
I was going to ask that. I've heard an interview from you before. You spoke about how your ambition now has, obviously as a player, you had an ambition to be a player, but given your injuries now, it's changed to become management. Obviously, you're in management now, but top end management. Is that your new dream, manager West Ham?
Yeah, that's the goal. I think the big thing for me to have my career, you could say, sort of snatched off me, taken away so young, it certainly inspired me to want to be the best I could be as a coach. And I wasn't sure whether I'd like it at first, but within a week in that role at Peterborough, I knew it was for me. It made me want to get out of bed in the morning. It made me want to get better. It made me want to learn. And due to my experiences and some of the managers I played under, I felt I was in a real good position to have a good go. And all of a sudden, fast forward 5 years on my coaching journey, I feel like I'm getting better every day. I'm still improving, still learning. And for me now, the long-term goal is to become a manager or a head coach somewhere, and obviously to do the very best that I can do with that. And I think the biggest thing for me now is I really miss that match day buzz, that pressure of a match day, that feeling when you arrive at the stadium in the morning and you can feel it bubbling. And it'd be nice to be able to get a taste of that slightly from a different perspective, but to be able to try and build a team and prepare a team to go out there and to make substitutions that could potentially change a game, and obviously send 70, 80,000 people home happy would be something that's great and something that inspires me at the moment to keep working hard and try and get better.
What are you like as a coach? Are you sort of half Allardyce, half a Zola or something?
Yeah, I suppose the important thing, you can't fake it. You'll get they'll see it straight away. So the players are clever, they're bright. So for me, I'm enthusiastic. I like technical players who can play. I like my sessions to be quite fast-paced, and I want the players to go out on the pitch and feel free and feel like they can enjoy it and play fast, attacking football, take risks. Whether that will change the higher up the chain I go, I don't know. But obviously at the moment, it's kind of where I'm leaning towards and kind of where I'm having a bit of fun with it. And yeah, we'll just sort of see where it goes.
Do you have any regrets?
Nah, you can never have any regrets, can you? I think always there'll always be always in life be things that you wonder what if. You wonder if certain things might not have happened, but I'm not one to sit around moping around and sort of feel sorry for myself. Things happen for a reason. You make decisions for a reason. It's important you sort of stick by them and go with it and give your all in everything you do. So hopefully long term it will all work out. And the fact that my career was cut short for injury might mean that I'm set for a great managerial career, hopefully. I mean, I'm 5 years further along where I would have been if I was still playing. 5 years ahead of a lot of my sort of friends who may be going down that route. So hopefully in the long term it'll stand me in good stead and I'll be coming back.
Head start on Noble, don't you? Got a head start on Mark.
That's what I mean.
Your soccer camp, though, you started your soccer camp a few years ago, and how's that going?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's something I started when I took that time out from playing. For me, I had all these experiences, and I felt like it was a good chance for me to give something back to the game that had given me so much. And we started in my local area at the school I went to as a kid. And ever since then, it's just grown and grown. And I'm pleased to say 5 years on, we've got multiple venues now. We've had so many kids come through the system and come to a camp or a session or have a party with us. And it's just great. As I said, for me, when I lost my dad, I used football as an escape. So for me, it's great to come and see these kids who may be having a tough time at school or stuff going on in their lives. And just to see them go out there and have fun kicking a ball about is great. And on the upside of that, if we find one or two good players, and I'm in a position now to help them sort of on their journeys and get them down that pathway where they might get the opportunity to experience a more professional environment, and that's something that's also really pleasing as well.
Couple of fun questions to wrap it up. Who's your best player you played with at West Ham?
I loved playing with Scotty Parker. He was class in the training pitch. Left it all out there every day. He could tackle, he could play, could do his turns, and certainly that season where we were struggling, he was incredible to watch. He was a man inspired most weekends, and in the end it wasn't enough, but to see him going out there at times when he was ill or struggling or trying to rally the troops was just great. And for a young player to play alongside someone like that sort of coming up, it really gave me a good experience, and I knew that if I was in trouble I could trust Scotty to help me out.
If you could go back in time, apart from your injury, because that's cheating, apart from your injuries, you could go back in your time at West Ham and change one thing, what would you change?
Probably the night against Millwall. I don't know if you remember, it was 1-1 and we won a penalty. Yeah. And Junior Stanislas stepped up and he had the ball and he went, "Go on, you want to take it?" And I was really tempted, but I thought, you know what, I know what Junior's technique's like. I know he'll probably score. And I was a wreck. I was all over the place. But looking back, I would have loved to have scored that night. I mean, it hit the post and didn't take the penalty. So probably that's my biggest regret in terms of being a player, not stepping up and taking the penalty on that night.
Yeah, when you joined West Ham, you came as a Chelsea fan. Are you a West Ham fan yet? You've somewhat become very much of an adopted Mr. West Ham in a way.
100%. It's always the first result I look for. It's always a game that I mean, we can watch any game out here in the US, which is great. It's always a game that I watch will be the West Ham game. But it's quite funny being at Cambridge and Peterborough as a kid. I've obviously adopted them clubs as well, so I was looking for the Peterborough result and the Cambridge result. But certainly being at West Ham for 10 years and understanding what it really takes to be part of that family and seeing the fans go through some great times and some bad times, it certainly makes you feel part of it. So, yeah, certainly a West Ham fan now.
So is that the best thing for you at West Ham, the fans? Because every when I was getting ready for this, I was looking at some interviews here and there, skimming through them. In every interview, the only thing that was consistent from you was the West Ham fans.
Yeah, I think for a young boy coming through, there's always that special bond because they like young players coming through the academy. And right from the day I scored my first goal at Everton, obviously they make you feel part of it straight away. And then I said for me, obviously experiencing that night at Millwall, getting relegated with them, getting promoted, you go on a journey with them. And for me, I suppose one of the bonuses about being injured, I got to go and meet and speak to so many fans. I used to do all the lounges and the boxes and go and watch the games as a fan. And it gives you a real perspective on what they're going through, what they're feeling, why they're disappointed, why they're upset. And it certainly makes you feel a real part of it. I suppose a big thing for me about what I found about the West Ham fans, they're knowledgeable most of the time, they understand the game, they're passionate and they just want people who go out there and work hard and put in a real shift for the team. And for me, that's the bare minimum you should be able to give as a footballer. And I like what they're about and I like the fact that they always try to look after their own. So, yeah, certainly why I suppose have that special relationship.
121 appearances, 14 goals, a coaching role, two coaching roles, plenty of games, plenty of memories. I've got a funny feeling, Jack, that your West Ham journey is not quite finished yet, and we'll see in the future. But Jack, thank you very much for joining me on this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Gio. Really appreciate it.
If you guys at home have enjoyed the interview, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll be back very, very soon.